This is an It Came From GenX video.
So, all right, fellas, moving on. And this can kind of tie into Keith moving into sports and music.
Yes.
Anybody and everybody in Northeast Ohio or Cleveland Indians, now Cleveland Guardians fan, knows this name, John Adams. He's a gentleman who back in 1986, at the age of 23 years old,
Man.
no, I'm sorry, it was August 24th, 1973 was his first game he attended. Bass drum that was used for, it was called an Indian drum. Keith, help me because you're more astute with that. It's a bass drum that not quite the size of a normal marching band type bass drum, but it was used for Indian music, Native Americans. Anyway, he sat out on the bleachers.
Names, but Indian drum is what it's called.
Right. Sat out at the bleachers, even at Old Municipal Stadium before it turned into Cleveland Brown Stadium, where the Indians and the Browns played together. And then all the way up until 2020 when he became ill. He never missed one home game at Cleveland Indians and now Cleveland Guardians. He went to 3 All-Star games in Cleveland, 11 playoff series home games, and 3 World Series. And he was also present for Lenny Barker's perfect game at Municipal Stadium back in, I believe it was 1982. Fisher, do you remember when that was? 82, 84, somewhere around there?
It was definitely early 80s. I know that.
I was in 6th grade. I'll never forget that.
I remember the game. I just can't remember how old I was when it was on. So John Adams is historic Cleveland Indians. You think about Cleveland Indians, you go to a game, it's just automatic. You're going to hear him out there in the bleachers with the drum. And I've been to the last couple home openers the last few years, and it's been eerie not seeing him. And even in games during the season, it's very eerie not seeing him out there or hearing him out there. Now, they've got a picture on the scoreboard with his drum and a mallet pounding with the same sound, but it's certainly not the same.
No.
John passed away today at age 71 years old. Now, he's 1 year younger than my father, so it really shakes me up a little bit. Being a diehard Cleveland Indians fan, I've been to games since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I go to several games a year. I've got tickets that I go to through work. And you guys know over the years, I'm a huge Cleveland Indians honk. And I won't go over my views with them being called what they're called now, which is the Guardians. Truthfully, John Adams had a pretty strong opinion, very similar to mine, and we've talked about that before on the show. So I won't go to that. But I had to bring this up. I'm saddened by this, being a Cleveland fan, a baseball fan, a John Adams fan. When I heard this, my heart sank, and I just had to bring it up. First of all, our condolences again to his family, to the Indians organization. John Adams was inducted to the Cleveland Indians Hall of Fame back in 2012. Mm-hmm. There is a bleacher seat from, I believe it's the old Municipal Stadium, and a replica of his drum out there in center field where the Hall of Fame is, out there behind center field wall. He's I think he's the 12th non-baseball player to be inducted to the Cleveland Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Pretty remarkable. And his career's almost 50 years.
Wow.
Span. So with that, you guys know John Adams. Have you been to the games? Do you remember hearing him? Do you remember his story at all? He's been on the local news many, many times over the years, and more so recently with him being ill. Do you guys have the same sentiment as I, or is it just, am I real close to this, being a huge Cleveland Indians honk like I am? But I wanted to bring up the story and get your guys' opinion.
Yeah, you have every right to be. So let's just be transparent here. When you mentioned this on text today, my response was, who was John Adams?
Right.
I thought you were talking about the second president of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea who he was.
Right.
I happened to look on Facebook, saw another close friend mourning over John Adams. And then when I found out who it was, I got it. And when I say I got why you wanted to talk about it, because I know how close you are to the Cleveland Indian Guardians organization. I said, okay, I know Skinner's feeling this. So throughout the day, I wanted to be able to contribute, but not falsely. I don't want to act like I know who he was or anything about him, because I don't. But I wanted to be able to contribute. First of all, I want to say sorry for your loss, because I know he meant a lot to you being an Indians fan. So condolences there. So what it made me think about, and it just goes along with our whole Gen X style of the show here. I get how you feel. And I experienced the same thing in 2008 when Myron Cope passed away. We all know that I am a huge Steelers fan, big enough that I named my son after them, Steel Rain. I love the Steelers. And Myron Cope was considered the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had been in that organization for a long, long time. I think he had close to a 50-year career, something like that as well. He came up with a lot of catchphrases. He was the very first football announcer inducted into the National Radio Hall of Fame. I don't know if you guys knew that. And of course, he has been credited with the creation of the terrible towel. You see a lot of teams with the towels now, but Myron Cope invented the whole terrible towel thing. We've been replicated, but never duplicated. So he had that high-pitched voice, kind of like Gilbert Gottfried. And he was just a beloved character, man. I mean, I had plenty of terrible towels. I got all kinds. I got the Super Bowl version. I got the pink cancer awareness version. I got all kinds. But I had to go to Pittsburgh, to get me a Myron Cope terrible towel. He was such a part of that organization, and it hurt when he passed. So I feel where you're coming from. It makes you feel like times are changing when you lose such a figure that you grew up with. Because he's part of the game. When you go to the games, John Adams is part of that game. And to not have him there no more, man, it just makes you feel like the good old days are gone now. And so I understand how you feel, brother.
Yeah, I could picture going to games up there. I didn't go to tons of games, not as many as Skinner, but I could tell you where he sat. I used to point him out all the time, right under the left part of the scoreboard in those bleacher seats, and you looked forward to him hitting that drum to try to rally the crowd and everything else. Pretty amazing. I mean, he was really a symbol of a Cleveland fan. You know, just to go to games where Cleveland baseball was terrible for many years. He must have saw so many horrible games and losses for years. And how much fun! Yes, absolutely. How much fun it was for him, I'm sure, to see the rise of the '90s and World Series appearances. Yeah, the movie Major League and all that stuff. So I don't know for sure, but I would venture to guess that in the Major League movie, the fans that had the drums and the dedication in the stands had to be loosely based on him.
That had to be tribute or loosely based for him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's what a good representation of a loyal, dedicated Cleveland sports fan sticking it out, even though watching some terrible teams, and certainly all the Cleveland teams had just many terrible years, more bad than good in recent memory for the most part. But anyway, so just a sad thing, and it is nice to see the organization honor him. I'm sure at some point, he probably didn't have to pay for a ticket for several years. I'm sure.
Listen,
go ahead.
Go ahead and finish your thought, and then I'm going to leave the story with something.
No, that's it. That's what I had there. Just a great fan for sure.
So before he became, go ahead, Keith.
I was going to say this before you say it, Skinner. When Jacobs Field was built,
Mhm.
I went to some Indians games, and I had never been in a more pleasant environment.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell people, you don't know what relaxation is until you see a game at Jacobs Field on a nice breezy summer day.
Absolutely.
I mean, the
Still that
lawn
way.
is so beautiful. Every seat is great. It's so clean. I
Mhm.
love that place.
We'll have to do it as a showcast. We'll have to go to a game this year together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it's all part of the environment. And what I would like to see them do now, they should get something like they have at the Minnesota Vikings at their stadium. That is just incredible how they start their games off with that giant drum, and they got the giant mallet. They have a guest
Oh, yeah. There you go.
person every home game, hit it, boom, and everybody goes, Skull! Skull is their thing. Don't have to be Cleveland's thing, but it's
a
really
Viking
a
thing,
great way
yeah.
to get all the fans involved. And
I
that
bet they're
drum's
going to do
huge.
something.
They have the horn. Go ahead, buddy.
I'm almost sure they'll do something. Now, 2023 is his 50th year. Before he became sick and it was able, his last release is, I've done it for the players. I love the organization. It's my way of drumming up enthusiasm for our team. This year, Adam celebrated his 50th season as a Guardians fan. He went to more than 3,700 games in his lifetime.
Man.
Wow.
Hey, this is Skinner from ItCameFromGenX. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and like, and we'll see you next time.